we're going to go to Japan. This is something from me. I am not the biggest Japanese wrestling historian or anything like that, but more recently I've been looking into, the glory days of the 90s. And then somewhere around 2000 or the late 1999 or wherever it may be, New Japan and Inoki seemed to get bitten by the MMA bug. And then Baba
Ooh, they
died.
ever.
And then Noah comes out of it. And then basically there's a huge exodus from all Japan to Noah. We'll stick with New Japan first. Why did Inoki just all of a sudden decide, well, what worked in the 90s, forget about that, we're going to get your Don Fries and your Josh Barnetts and everybody else, and we're going to do sort of worked MMA?
I just I can't explain it. I mean, his style of wrestling, he fought Ali. That's his, it wasn't a fight, it was a exhibition. He was always into combat sports. Noki loved that stuff. When the MMA came out, it started taking over. Pride was huge. And they're selling, but we were too. We we never we had bigger crowds at the Tokyo Dome than they did. But they were doing very well. And he wanted to pit his boys, he got Nagata, Nakanishi, Kinski, he got them all to, you know, I mean, who Crow Cobb. Nagata's first fight was against Crow Cobb, for God's sakes. And Nagata was a great kid. I loved him. And I'm just going, Crow Cobb's gonna kill him. This is a one thing about these MMA guys, they're hard to hurt. Meaning their jujitsu and everything on the floor, on the ground, they're incredibly, they're gifted, trained, legit fighting machines. And if you're not that, in a bar fight or something, you're gonna square up but when you're in that world, you can't take three wrestlers that had a high school or a college wrestling career and expect to put them in there with these guys and to have any kind of outcome. But he went nuts with it. He just, they brought Don in, they brought Josh Barnett, and they would bring other guys through. I can't remember the guy who used to carry the cross in the ring. He was there for a while,
Oh,
but
chemo.
chemo, yeah. And I like Don a lot. Don, at first he was very difficult, because he came in the locker room and nobody's gonna take. He tried to be the tough guy in the locker room. We didn't give him the locker room. Nobody backed down from Don. But we got a ton. Who's tough as nails, brother? He did a spot. We're working a spot, and he was jumping off. I think it wasn't the top rope, but he did like to skip over. When he came down, I popped him, and I didn't want to take his head off, but I did. And he kind of like thought it was his fault, you know. And I just went, I said, and I didn't even, most guys would have been gone. And it was kind of like another day at the office for him.
Mm.
He was a durable, tough guy, man. And he was, Anoki should have never put him in that position yet. Taking him into our business and say, here you are. He was not ready for it. He knew it. I knew it. Everybody knew it. We tried to make the best out of it. And eventually Don started picking it up. But just like everybody else in this business, you start getting a push. You get a little bit of a big head. You know it all. And that definitely happened to Don. Then he starts feeling it because he was around some guys that could go out there and just burn the house down. And he's wondering why he's not burning it down because, boy, he didn't. Now, if he's going to go out there and take on a top MMA fighter, he's burning the house down. But you see, he's not. And so Inoki said, didn't give Don the greatest of opportunities because he didn't have him prepared for it. Then he took his guys, and they want to go in against Crow Cobb, or they want to go in there against these top flight fighters. And as good of amateur wrestlers as they were, in collegiate, they're just not there. And it was, my opinion, a huge mistake. Huge, because pro wrestling's a different world, and it's an entertaining, but over there it's very, I mean, that's why I named my book Strong Style. I mean, it was different. And they, and Don started having some great matches. He had a match with Kinski one time, was just a barn burner. But at first he wasn't ready for it. And then, Brian Johnson came in too, and he was going 100 miles an hour. He just, they weren't trained for that, but they were very well trained for what they did, believe me. Yeah.
Speaking of which, did Inoki ever try and convince you to, or try and book you in for a Pride fight or
Yeah.
similar? Oh, did he really?
Yeah. And Massa wouldn't let it happen. He says, no, he says, Scott's a professional wrestler. I, and I was up for it. And, I mean, because maybe I didn't understand as well. But one thing that I had over, you know, Nagata or these guys, I was a powerhouse. I mean, I'm I had a different attitude than they did. I mean, I felt that, I mean, learning and seeing, you know, these guys on the ground are amazing. Their jujitsu is, it's just hard to hurt them. And Masa says, I know you could just take him, throw him over top rope. And I go, I mean, and but Masa just said, Scott, please. And anything Masa told me to do throughout my career, I did. And I mean, he always says, trust me. He he took care of me like, I mean, he was the only guy in this business that never lied to me. They're always talking about you signed this huge contract. I shook Moss's hand. It was gold. And so what he said, I did. And he took, and when Moss was out of the office and things changed, that anybody that had any loyalty to me was gone after, a short period of, or, that's when I had ended up leaving because everything, the bloodline was severed.